Marcus Wellington stood at the window of his huge house, looking out at the empty swing set in his backyard. 2 years ago, his daughter Emma used to play there every day. She would laugh and call for him to push her higher and higher until she felt like she was flying. Now the swing moved slowly in the wind, empty and silent, like a sad reminder of everything that had changed. Marcus was one of the richest men in the state. He owned 3 big companies that made millions of dollars every year. His house was so big that it had 20 rooms and his garage had 7 expensive cars. People called him successful. Newspapers wrote stories about his business deals, but none of that mattered anymore. Not since the accident that took away his little girl's ability to walk. It happened on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Emma was 8 years old and coming home from school. The school bus was crossing the street when a drunk driver crashed into it at full speed. Most of the children got hurt, but Emma got the worst injuries. The doctors at the hospital worked for 12 hours to save her life. They did save her life, but they could not save her legs. Your daughter will never walk again, the main doctor had told Marcus and his wife Sarah. The damage to her spine is too severe. We did everything we could, but some things cannot be fixed. Marcus remembered that day like it was yesterday. He remembered how his knees went weak and how Sarah started crying so hard that she could not breathe. He remembered looking at Emma lying in that hospital bed, so small and broken, with tubes and wires everywhere. That was the day his world fell apart. For 2 years, Marcus had spent every day trying to prove the doctors wrong. He hired the best doctors in America. He flew Emma to hospitals in other countries. He spent millions of dollars on treatments that promised miracles but delivered nothing. He tried everything, surgery after surgery, new medicines, special therapy, even treatments that most doctors said were crazy. Emma had 15 different operations. Marcus took her to Switzerland where doctors said they had new ways to fix spinal cord injuries. They went to Japan for experimental treatments. They visited Mexico for stem cell therapy. Nothing worked. Each time, Marcus would get his hopes up, thinking this would be the one that worked. Each time he would watch his daughter go through pain and disappointment when the treatment failed. The worst part was watching Emma change. Before the accident, she was the happiest child he had ever seen. She would wake up singing and go to sleep telling him about all the fun things she wanted to do tomorrow. She loved to dance, run in the garden, and climb trees. She was fearless and full of life. Now Emma was quiet most of the time. She sat in her wheelchair and stared out the window. She did not sing anymore. She did not talk about tomorrow. When other children came to visit, she would just watch them play, her eyes full of sadness. The worst thing was when she told Marcus one day, "Daddy, I think God forgot about me." Marcus's wife Sarah tried to help him accept what had happened. "We need to focus on helping Emma live her best life as she is now," Sarah would say. "We cannot keep chasing impossible dreams while she needs us here in the real world." But Marcus could not give up. Every morning he would wake up and think, "Today might be the day I find the answer." He read every medical journal, talked to every expert, and followed every lead, no matter how small. His office was full of papers about spinal cord research. He had phone numbers for doctors and healers from around the world written on sticky notes all over his desk. His friends and family started to worry about him. His brother James visited one day and found Marcus reading research papers at 3 in the morning. "Marcus, you are going to make yourself sick," James said. "You have to accept that some things cannot be changed." "No," Marcus replied, his voice tired but determined. "I will never accept it. She is my daughter. I will find a way to help her walk again, even if it takes everything I have." Marcus had already spent over $5 million on treatments and doctors. He sold one of his companies to pay for the experimental treatments in Switzerland. He took out loans against his house to pay for the stem cell therapy. Money that he had worked his whole life to earn was disappearing, but he did not care. What good was money if he could not use it to help his child? The stress was taking a toll on his marriage too. Sarah loved Emma just as much as Marcus did, but she wanted to help their daughter in different ways. She wanted to make their house more accessible for Emma's wheelchair. She wanted to get Emma into sports for disabled children. She wanted to help Emma make friends with other children who used wheelchairs. Emma needs to see that she can still have a good life, Sarah would argue. You are teaching her that she is broken and needs to be fixed. What if we cannot fix her? What if this is how she will always be? But Marcus could not think that way. Every time he looked at Emma, he saw the little girl who used to run to him when he came home from work. He saw the child who would dance in the kitchen while Sarah cooked dinner. He saw his baby girl who deserved to have her whole life ahead of her, not just the parts that a wheelchair would allow. On this particular Tuesday morning, Marcus was getting ready to meet another doctor. This one was different, the man had said on the phone. He had new technology that could help the brain talk to the spine in new ways. Marcus had heard promises like this many times before, but he had to try. He would never stop trying. He kissed Emma goodbye before leaving. She was sitting at the kitchen table eating cereal and watching cartoons on her tablet. She looked up at him with eyes that seemed too old for a 10-year-old child. "Are you going to see another doctor about my legs?" she asked quietly. "Yes, sweetheart. I'm going to find a way to help you," Marcus said, kneeling down next to her wheelchair. Emma nodded, but she did not look excited like she used to when he told her about new treatments. She had learned not to get her hopes up. That broke Marcus's heart more than anything else. As Marcus drove through the city toward the doctor's office, he felt the familiar mix of hope and fear in his chest. Hope that this might finally be the answer he had been looking for. Fear that it would be another disappointment in a long line of disappointments. But he would keep going. He would never give up on his daughter. Even if the whole world told him it was impossible, he would keep fighting for her chance to walk again. Maya Johnson sat on the cold concrete steps of an old broken building. She had been living on these streets for 3 years now, ever since her mother died from cancer. Maya was only 16 years old, but she had learned to take care of herself, in ways that most adults never had to learn. The building behind her used to be a grocery store, but now it was empty with broken windows and peeling paint. This was her spot during the day. At night, she would find safer places to sleep, sometimes in the doorway of a church, sometimes in an old car that nobody used anymore. The police knew her, and most of them left her alone because she never caused trouble. Maya's clothes were old and had holes in them, but she kept them as clean as she could. She washed them in the sink of a gas station bathroom when the owner was not looking. Her hair was long and wild because she could not afford to cut it, but her eyes were bright and alert. People who looked closely could see that there was something special about this girl, even though she lived on the streets. Maya was different from other people in a way that she did not fully understand. Ever since she was a little child, she could feel things that others could not feel. When someone was sick, she would know it before they showed any signs. When someone was in pain, she would feel it in her own body like it was happening to her. When people were sad or scared, their emotions would hit her like waves. Her grandmother had told her that this was a gift from God. Some people in our family have always been able to help others heal, her grandmother had explained before she died. It is not magic, child. It is love and understanding working through your hands. But living on the streets, Maya's gift felt more like a curse. Everywhere she went, she felt other people's pain and sickness. The homeless man who slept near the bridge had diabetes that was getting worse every day. The woman who sold flowers on the corner had cancer growing in her lungs but did not know it yet. The children who played in the park carried sadness from homes where their parents fought too much. Sometimes Maya would try to help people when the feeling became too strong to ignore. She would place her hands on someone's back or shoulders and try to ease their pain. Most people thought she was just a crazy street kid and would push her away. But a few times, people got better after she touched them. There was old Mrs. Rodriguez who owned a small restaurant and sometimes gave Maya leftover food. Mrs. Rodriguez had terrible arthritis that made her hands hurt so much she could barely cook. One day, Maya asked if she could help. Mrs. Rodriguez laughed and said, "What can a child do that doctors cannot do?" But she let Maya put her hands on her painful joints anyway. After 10 minutes, the pain was gone. Mrs. Rodriguez stared at her hands in amazement, moving her fingers without hurting for the first time in years. Word spread quietly through the neighborhood about the strange girl who could sometimes heal people, but Maya was careful. She knew that if too many people found out, someone might try to use her or hurt her. She only helped when she felt she had to, when someone's pain was so loud in her mind that she could not ignore it. On this Tuesday morning, Maya was sitting on her usual steps when she felt something different, a pain so deep and desperate that it made her gasp and put her hand over her heart. It was not physical pain. It was the kind of pain that comes from watching someone you love suffer and not being able to help them. Maya looked around, trying to find where this terrible sadness was coming from. Then she saw the expensive black car stopped at the red light. Through the window she could see a man in a nice suit, but his face looked tired and hopeless. The pain was coming from him, and it was so strong that Maya felt tears come to her eyes. Without thinking about what she was doing, Maya stood up and walked toward the car. As she got closer, the feeling got stronger. This man was carrying the weight of watching his child suffer. Maya could feel it as clearly as if someone had told her the whole story. There was a little girl, somewhere, who could not walk. The Mao. Doctors had given up hope, but this man refused to give up. The man in the car saw Maya coming and quickly locked his doors. Maya understood why. She was a homeless black teenager approaching an expensive car. People like him were taught to be afraid of people like her, but Maya was not interested in his money or his car. She was interested in the pain that was radiating from him like heat from a fire. Maya walked up to the car window and placed her hand flat against the glass. The man inside stared at her with wide, frightened eyes. Maya looked directly at him and spoke clearly, even though she knew he probably could not hear her well through the closed window. "Your daughter," Maya said, her voice calm and certain. "She is in a wheelchair. The doctors told you she will never walk again." Marcus Wellington felt his blood turn to ice. He stared at this strange girl who had appeared from nowhere and somehow knew his most private pain. There was no way she could know about Emma. He had never seen this girl before in his life. His family's tragedy was not something he talked about publicly. Maya continued, her hand still pressed against the window. "But the doctors are wrong," she said. "I can feel it. The damage is not as bad as they think. I know how to make your daughter walk again." Marcus felt like he could not breathe. Cars behind him started honking their horns because the light had turned green, but he could not move. He rolled down his window just a little bit, enough to hear her clearly. "What did you say?" Marcus asked, his voice shaking. Maya stepped closer to the small opening in the window. "I said I know how to make your daughter walk again. The energy in her body is blocked, not destroyed. I can help her." Marcus stared at this impossible girl. Everything about this moment seemed crazy. A homeless teenager claiming she could do what the best doctors in the world could not do. But something in her eyes made him pause. There was no desperation there, no attempt to trick him or get something from him. There was only calm certainty. "How do you know about my daughter?" Marcus managed to ask. "I can feel your pain," Maya said simply. "It has been keeping me awake at night. Your love for her is so strong and your fear is so deep. But you do not need to be afraid anymore." The cars behind Marcus were honking louder now. Maya stepped back from the car and spoke once more before turning away. "If you want to know more, come back here tomorrow at the same time. But do not bring your money. This is not about money." Then Maya walked back to her steps, leaving Marcus sitting in traffic, his mind spinning with questions and a tiny spark of hope that he was afraid to feel. Marcus Wellington could not sleep that night. He lay in his big bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about the strange girl who had somehow known about Emma. Every time he closed his eyes, he could see her face. Young but wise, poor but dignified, speaking with a certainty that shook him to his core. At 3 a.m, Marcus got up and went to his office. He turned on his computer and started searching for information about people who claimed they could heal others without medicine. He read about faith healers, energy workers, and people who said they had special gifts. Most of it sounded like nonsense to his logical mind, but he kept reading anyway. He found stories of people who got better when doctors said they never would. He read about children who walked again after being told they were paralyzed forever. Some of the stories seemed fake, written by people trying to sell something. But others sounded real, written by families who had nothing to gain by lying. Marcus was a businessman. He had built his fortune by being smart, logical, and careful. He never made decisions based on emotions or hope alone. But tonight, sitting in his office surrounded by medical journals and research papers that had brought him nothing but disappointment, he wondered if logic was enough. Around 4 a.m, Marcus walked quietly to Emma's room. She was sleeping peacefully, her wheelchair next to her bed. Even in sleep, she looked fragile and broken. Marcus remembered when she used to kick off her blankets at night because she moved around so much in her dreams. Now she slept perfectly, still like her body had forgotten how to move. Marcus knelt beside her bed and whispered, "I don't know if this girl can help you, sweetheart, but I have to try. I hope you can forgive me if this turns out to be another disappointment." The next day seemed to last forever. Marcus could not concentrate on work. He kept looking at the clock, watching the hours pass slowly. His assistant noticed that he was distracted and asked if everything was okay. Marcus just nodded and said he had a lot on his mind. Sarah noticed too. At lunch, she sat across from him at their kitchen table and asked, "What's wrong? You look like you haven't slept." Marcus thought about telling her what had happened, but he knew she would think he was losing his mind. Sarah had watched him chase too many false hopes already. She had begged him to stop putting Emma through endless treatments that never worked. If he told her about a homeless girl who claimed she could heal Emma, Sarah might try to stop him from going. "I'm just tired," Marcus said. "I've been thinking about Emma and everything we've been through." Sarah reached across the table and took his hand. "Marcus, we need to help Emma learn to be happy as she is. We cannot keep looking for miracles that don't exist." But what if they do exist? Marcus thought. What if we've been looking in the wrong places? At 5 o'clock, Marcus left his office and drove toward the poor part of the city. His heart was beating fast, and his hands were shaking a little. He felt foolish for believing that a teenager living on the streets could do what the best doctors in the world could not do. But he also felt something else. Hope. Real hope for the first time in months. When Marcus reached the intersection, where he had met Maya the day before, she was there waiting. She sat on the same steps wearing the same worn clothes, but she looked like she had been expecting him. As Marcus parked his car and got out, Maya stood up and walked toward him. "You came back," Maya said, but she did not sound surprised. "You knew I would," Marcus replied. "Yes. Your love for your daughter is too strong. You will never stop fighting for her." Marcus studied Maya's face. Up close, he could see that despite her rough circumstances, there was something clean and pure about her. Her eyes held kindness and wisdom that seemed impossible for someone so young, who had been through so much hardship. "How do you know about Emma?" Marcus asked. "How could you possibly know about my daughter?" Maya sat down on a low wall nearby and gestured for Marcus to sit next to her. He hesitated for a moment. He was not used to sitting on dirty walls in poor neighborhoods, but then he sat down. "I see things differently than most people," Maya explained. "When I look at someone, I don't just see their body. I see their energy, their pain, their emotions. It's like seeing colors that other people cannot see." Marcus frowned. "That sounds impossible." "I know it does," Maya said calmly. "Most people think I'm crazy when I try to explain it. But yesterday, when I saw you in your car, your pain was so bright and loud that it hurt me. I could feel how much you love your daughter and how desperate you are to help her." Maya paused and looked at Marcus seriously. "I could also feel something else. I felt your daughter's energy, even though she was not there. The doctors told you her spine was too damaged to heal, but they are wrong. The energy is still there, just blocked." Marcus wanted to believe her, but years of disappointment had made him careful. "Even if what you're saying is true, how do I know you can actually help her? How do I know this isn't just another false hope?" Maya nodded, understanding his doubt. "You don't know, and I cannot promise you that I can completely heal her. Sometimes I can help people and sometimes I cannot. But I can promise you this. I will never lie to you about what I can or cannot do. She stood up and looked at Marcus with those penetrating eyes. I have helped other people before. There's an old woman named Mrs. Rodriguez who owns a restaurant, 6 blocks from here. She had arthritis so bad she could barely use her hands. After I helped her, the pain went away. You can ask her if you want. Marcus felt a spark of possibility. You would let me talk to someone you helped before? Of course. I have nothing to hide. There's also a man named Carlos who works at the gas station on 5th Street. He hurt his back in a construction accident and couldn't work for months. After I helped him, he went back to work the next week. Maya sat back down and spoke more, softly. I know this is hard to believe. Rich people like you are taught that everything has to make scientific sense. But some things in this world are bigger than science. Some things work even when we don't understand how. Marcus was quiet, for a long time, thinking. Everything Maya said sounded impossible. But the way she spoke, the certainty in her voice, and most importantly the fact that she had known about Emma when no one had told her, made him wonder if impossible things could sometimes be true. Finally, Marcus looked at Maya and asked, If I brought you to meet Emma, what would you do? Maya smiled for the first time since they had been talking. I would try to help her remember how to heal herself. The drive to Marcus's house was quiet. Maya sat in the passenger seat of his expensive car, looking out the window as they moved from the broken streets of her neighborhood to the beautiful areas where rich people lived. She did not seem impressed or jealous of the big houses and perfect lawns they passed. She was focused on something else entirely. Marcus kept glancing at Maya as he drove. He still could not believe what he was doing. In just 2 days, he had gone from being a logical businessman to driving a homeless teenager to his house to meet his disabled daughter. If anyone had told him a week ago that he would do this, he would have thought they were crazy. Are you nervous? Marcus asked as they pulled into his long driveway. Maya shook her head. No, but your daughter might be. She has been disappointed so many times. She has learned not to hope too much. Marcus felt a sharp pain in his chest. Maya was right. Emma had stopped getting excited when he told her about new doctors or treatments. She had built walls around her heart to protect herself from more disappointment. When they reached the house, Marcus led Maya through the front door. The house was huge and filled with expensive furniture and artwork. Maya looked around briefly but did not seem interested in any of it. She was listening to something that Marcus could not hear. Where is she? Maya asked quietly. In the living room, Marcus replied, pointing down the hall. They walked together toward the living room. Marcus felt his heart beating fast. He was about to introduce his paralyzed daughter to a homeless girl who claimed she could make Emma walk again. He prayed silently that he was not making a terrible mistake. Emma was sitting in her wheelchair near the big window, playing a game on her tablet. She looked up when she heard footsteps and saw her father walking in with a young black girl she had never seen before. Emma, sweetheart, I want you to meet someone, Marcus said, trying to keep his voice calm and normal. This is Maya. Emma looked at Maya with curious eyes. Maya walked slowly toward Emma, moving carefully and gently like she was approaching a scared animal. Hi, Emma, Maya said with a warm smile. Your dad told me a lot about you. He says you like to read and that you have a cat named Whiskers. Emma's eyes lit up a little. Most adults who came to see her talked to her in that special voice people use with sick children, like she was fragile and might break. But Maya talked to her like she was just a regular kid. Whiskers is upstairs sleeping, Emma said. He's lazy and sleeps all day. Maya laughed. My mom used to have a cat like that. Are you playing a fun game? Emma showed Maya the puzzle game on her tablet, and they talked about it for a few minutes. Marcus watched in amazement as Emma became more animated than she had been in months. There was something about Maya that made Emma feel comfortable and safe. After a while, Maya asked gently, Emma, would it be okay if I put my hands on your back? I might be able to help you feel better. Emma looked at her father, confused. What do you mean? Marcus knelt down next to Emma's wheelchair. Maya has a special gift, sweetheart. She thinks she might be able to help your legs feel better. Emma's face became guarded again. The doctor said my legs will never work again. I know, Maya said softly. And maybe the doctors are right. But sometimes our bodies can do things that surprise us. Would you let me try? If it doesn't work, that's okay. If it makes you uncomfortable, I'll stop right away. Emma thought for a moment, then nodded slowly. Maya moved behind Emma's wheelchair and placed her hands gently on Emma's shoulders. Emma tensed up at first, but Maya's touch was warm and somehow comforting. Just relax, Maya whispered. I'm going to listen to your body and see what it tells me. Maya closed her eyes and stood very still. Marcus watched from across the room, hardly daring to breathe. For several minutes, nothing seemed to happen. Then Maya's hands began to move slowly down Emma's back, stopping at different spots along her spine. I can feel it, Maya said quietly, her eyes still closed. The energy is there, but it's like a door that's been locked. The key is still there, too. But no one has tried to turn it. Maya's hands moved lower, to the place where Emma's spine had been damaged in the accident. As soon as Maya touched that spot, something strange happened. Emma gasped, and her whole body shivered. What was that? Emma asked, her voice full of wonder. You felt something? Marcus asked, rushing to her side. It was like electricity, but warm, Emma said, staring at Maya with wide eyes. Maya smiled and continued working, her hands moving along Emma's spine and then down to her legs. She explained what she was doing in simple words that Emma could understand. Your body has energy flowing through it like a river, Maya said. When you got hurt, some rocks fell into the river and blocked the water. I'm trying to move the rocks so the water can flow again. As Maya worked, Emma began to feel things she had not felt in 2 years. First it was just warmth where Maya's hands touched her. Then it became a tingling sensation that spread down her back and into her legs. Daddy! Emma cried out suddenly. I can feel her hands on my legs. I can actually feel them. Marcus felt tears come to his eyes. For 2 years, Emma had had no feeling in her legs at all. The doctors had tested her many times, poking her legs with needles and instruments, and Emma never felt anything. But now she was feeling Maya's touch. Maya continued working, her hands moving to different points on Emma's legs and feet. With each touch, Emma felt more sensation returning. It was not painful, just strange and wonderful, like parts of her body were waking up after a long sleep. After about an hour, Maya stepped back and opened her eyes. She looked tired but satisfied. How do you feel? Maya asked Emma. Emma moved her legs slightly and gasped. I can feel them. They're tingly and warm, but I can feel them. She looked at her father with tears of joy in her eyes. Daddy, I can feel my legs again. Marcus knelt down and hugged Emma tightly, both of them crying. For the first time in 2 years, his daughter had feeling in her legs. It was not complete healing yet, but it was the first real progress they had seen since the accident. Maya sat down in a nearby chair, looking exhausted, but happy. This is just the beginning, she said quietly. The pathways are opening up, but it will take time for them to get strong again. We'll need to work together every day. Emma looked at Maya with pure gratitude. Will you come back tomorrow? Maya nodded. Every day until you're ready to walk again. Maya came to the Wellington house every day for the next 3 weeks. Each morning, Marcus would pick her up from her usual spot on the street corner, and each evening, he would drive her back. At first, Sarah was suspicious and worried about having a homeless stranger in their house. But after she saw how Emma smiled and laughed when Maya was around, Sarah's heart began to change too. Emma looked forward to Maya's visits more than anything else in her world. For the first time since her accident, she had something to be excited about. She would wake up early and sit by the window, waiting for her father's car to pull into the driveway with Maya inside. Each healing session brought small improvements. On the 3rd day, Emma could wiggle her toes. On the 7th day, she could bend her knees slightly. By the 2nd week, she had feeling in both legs all the way down to her feet. The progress was slow but steady, like watching a flower bloom, day by day. Dr. Harrison, Emma's main doctor, was completely confused by what was happening. He ran test after test, trying to understand how Emma was regaining feeling and movement in her legs. The medical scans showed increased activity in parts of her spine that had been completely dead since the accident. "I don't understand what's happening," Dr. Harrison told Marcus during one of their appointments. "According to everything we know about spinal cord injuries, this should be impossible. Emma's spine was severely damaged. We saw the scans, but now it's like her body is rewiring itself." Marcus did not tell Dr. Harrison about Maya. He knew the doctor would not believe him, and he did not want anyone to interfere with Emma's healing. Instead, he just smiled and said, "Sometimes miracles happen." But the real miracle was not just in Emma's body. It was in the way Maya changed their entire family. Before Maya came into their lives, the Wellington house had been full of sadness and fear. Marcus spent all his time worrying about Emma's future. Sarah cried when she thought no one was looking. Emma had given up hope and stopped dreaming about tomorrow. Now the house felt alive again. Emma laughed and told jokes. She started drawing pictures and writing stories about adventures she wanted to have when she could walk again. Sarah began planning family trips and activities they could do together. Marcus slept better at night because he was no longer carrying the weight of impossible desperation. Maya also changed during those 3 weeks. Marcus insisted on buying her new clothes and giving her a place to stay, but Maya only accepted what she absolutely needed. She was not interested in Marcus's money or his offers to make her rich. All she cared about was helping Emma heal. "Why won't you let me help you more?" Marcus asked Maya one day. "You're giving my daughter her life back. Let me give you a better life too." Maya shook her head. "I already have everything I need. I have a purpose and I have people who care about me. That's more than most people have." On the 18th day, something amazing happened. Emma was lying on the couch while Maya worked on her legs, as they did every day. But this time, when Maya asked Emma to try to move her legs, Emma not only moved them, she lifted them up off the couch. "Look!" Emma shouted, lifting both legs into the air. "I can lift them up. I can really move them." Sarah, who was watching from the doorway, started crying tears of joy. Marcus ran over and knelt beside the couch, staring in amazement as his daughter moved her legs in ways she had not been able to do for over 2 years. "Can I try to stand up?" Emma asked, her voice full of excitement and hope. Maya nodded. "Let's try, but take it slow. Your legs are still learning how to be strong again." Marcus and Maya helped Emma move from the couch to her wheelchair and then slowly helped her stand up. Emma's legs were shaky and weak, but they held her weight. For the first time in 2 years, Emma Wellington was standing on her own 2 feet. "I'm standing," Emma cried, tears streaming down her face. "I'm really standing." The whole family hugged each other and cried together. Even Maya had tears in her eyes as she watched Emma take her first wobbly steps across the living room. It was not perfect. Emma needed help and support. But she was walking. Over the next few days, Emma's strength grew quickly. Her legs remembered how to work, and soon she was walking around the house by herself. She was still careful and moved slowly, but she was walking. The little girl who doctors said would never walk again was running through her house, laughing and dancing like she used to do. Dr. Harrison called it the most remarkable recovery he had ever seen in his 30 years as a doctor. He wrote papers about Emma's case and presented it to other doctors, but no one could explain how it had happened. Marcus knew he owed Maya more than he could ever repay. He wanted to give her money, a house, an education, anything she wanted. But Maya had different ideas about how Marcus could thank her. "There are other people who need help," Maya told Marcus. "People who are sick and cannot afford doctors. People who are in pain and have nowhere to go. If you really want to thank me help them." Marcus understood. He used his money to buy a large building in Maya's neighborhood and turned it into a free healing center. Maya became the director, and Marcus hired nurses and doctors to work alongside her. The center provided free health care to anyone who needed it, and Maya continued to use her special gift to help people heal. Emma visited the center often, telling other children her story and showing them that impossible things could happen. She became a symbol of hope for other families who were facing difficult medical problems. Maya never charged anyone for her healing work. She lived in a small apartment near the center and spent her days helping others. She had found her purpose in life, and it was not about money or fame. It was about using her gift to ease other people's pain. Years later, Emma would tell people that Maya did not just heal her legs, Maya healed her whole family. She taught them that miracles could come from the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the people who seem to have the least to offer actually have the most to give. The homeless girl who everyone ignored had changed the lives of one of the richest families in the city. But more importantly, she had shown them all that love, hope, and faith could overcome anything, even the things that doctors said were impossible. Emma never forgot that the greatest healing came not from expensive treatments or famous doctors, but from a teenage girl who cared enough to help a stranger's child walk again.